Warning. If you find explicit language and other people's opinions offensive, I don't give a shit.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Apostasy Now. I'm MrDragonbeard, and my regular co-host, who's going to be showing up when he's not quite so busy, Smashlock, is not with us today. So I'm going to go through a few things, make a little mini episode. I thought that maybe I'd give you a quick definition of apostasy according to Merriam-Webster. The first one is, of course, the renunciation of a religious faith. But the second one is more general: abandonment of a previous loyalty, a defection. This goes all the way back to the original being out of Greek, which is most closely defined as a revolt in the original. I think that more people, you and I, and all of our friends, should start questioning the things that we have a blind loyalty to: religion, ideology, politics, preconceived notions. And I hope that this show is a place for us to talk about that. Though I am an atheist, I welcome anyone to listen to the show, and any feedback, whether pleasant or hostile. I may take you up on it, I may not. Either way, I hope it's interesting. So here we go.
Because I'm very much a skeptic. I'm more of a skeptic than I am an atheist. I mean, atheist is a conclusion based on my skepticism.
You may be a PhD in the university, but if you're ever to have peace of soul with God, you'll have to come like a little child to the foot of the cross. You won't understand it intellectually.
That attitude is what is responsible for the rise of atheism.
The face of terror is not the true faith of Islam. That's not what Islam is all about. Islam is peace.
What is the penalty for leaving the Muslim faith?
If it's an Islamic country, then the Sharia is very clear. Apostasy is dealt with the death penalty.
Thank you.
This is Apostasy Now.
Well, the Lord has given and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. How you going to bless God and you just took your wife? Now that's the dumbest thing in the world. Huh?
I would rather be reasonable and talk to people about things, and at least for people to get the information correct before they start yapping.
The gay community wants an affirmation of the way they do sex, and they're willing to destroy the church.
I don't see the world as black and white, wheat and tares, sheep and goats, sinner versus saint. I don't see that no more. I think we're all capable of doing good things. We're capable of doing evil things.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.
Big, interesting, important word begins with E, evidence. All the evidence is the cosmos doesn't know we're here.
So for my first piece, this comes out of the Washington Post. In Saudi Arabia, whips for words. It talks about how it's been a busy summer for Saudi Arabia's judges. Several different cases of people going to prison because they've used Facebook in the inappropriate way, that they've tweeted the wrong things. On July 29th, Raif Badawi, who founded and ran a liberal website offering an outlet for free expression in a closed society, was convicted by a court and sentenced to 600 lashes and 7 years in prison. So what he did was he used a little satire. He thanked the moral police for making sure that everyone in society in Saudi Arabia was going to go to prison and live in, or going to go to heaven and live in paradise, which really, it is kind of like a prison when you think about everything you have to go through and what kind of a God is going to be waiting for you there. Mr. Badawi's journey. Yeah, well, the more you read about this, the more depressing it gets. You start seeing a very long tradition that's there, and we generally ignore this type of thing in the West. We seem very eager to deal with this country, and many like it, when their transgressions are atrocious and they're ongoing. You know, I don't know what else is to be said about this, except that if making a few jokes is really going to dent your faith in your God, then maybe you're not the most faithful, and maybe that's really what you're projecting onto other people. And I feel sorry for the masses of people who have been injured or suffered or been murdered by a regime, religion, whichever the hybrid is there. These people just happen to be born in a place where they didn't have freedoms. And I think we should appreciate what we have over here a little bit more whenever we talk about the separation of church and state. So on behalf of everyone like Mr. Badawi, everyone who suffered, lost loved ones, I'd just like to offer my 2 cents in that your religion is shit, your God is shit, and your state is shit. So I was looking at an interesting post from The Guardian at the end of last month. It has detailed counts and numbers from every country except for China on the death penalty statistics, which, for the most part, is the government's way of keeping people under their thumb. Good news is, as usual, the number of countries, the amount of executions are slowly going down. There's a little bit more of an evolved understanding that killing people left, right, and center doesn't solve all your country's problems. On the bad side, there are still some countries that persist. China will not report the numbers on pretty much any of its vital statistics when it comes to persecutions. But you do have some here. Let's see now. How does our old country friend Iran stack up with the total number of executions since 2007 for the entire world being 6,221? So keep that in mind. That's the total. Our progressive friends in Iran that we all want to hold hands with have executed in that same amount of time 1,663. So a quarter of the world's executions since 2007 have been carried out in one country. And this country also is marked by not sentencing almost any of those people to death with some kind of elaborate type of system. They just tell you you're going to die, and then you die. I've also been looking, though this article in The Guardian doesn't have it, I've been looking online at a number of sites that have shocked me this week when I started looking at the Google search. Try typing it in, executions, Iran, and then see what comes up on the images. These are not from the 1970s. These are people, they're hanging dead in the middle of a town square in a completely modern era from cranes that have rolled into town for this express purpose. This government is, in my opinion, not one that's stable. It's out of control, or it wouldn't need to go around killing everyone in this fashion. It's very public, it's very barbaric, it's very out of date, it's passé, shall we say. And what are we doing about it? As far as I can tell, we're not doing much. We continue to take an exchange of money and oil, which allows them to buy technology instead of actually instituting a development in their society, which will allow them to achieve these things and contribute to humanity. The people who suffer the most are their own people, and they need us to do something. I'm not talking about war. I'm not talking about more violence. But we need to take a stand. We need to find a strategy or develop strategies to help these people have an easier time, begin reasserting themselves as a population over a religious-based regime that, like everything else, is political, wants power, and isn't going to give it up without a fight. We're looking right now at Egypt as people are dying. People are trying to find their own destiny. And, these religious overtures, these religious zealots with guns, organized fashion, they're very dangerous. They shouldn't be underestimated. Once again, a reminder, the separation of church and state. Over here, we can disagree with each other. Over there, it's not allowed. And if you're going to do it in the street, and if you're even going to do it on a tweet, you better think about what it's going to cost you. So don't tell me that it's bigoted to speak out against this type of Islamic craziness, this type of destructive tendency. It's not racist. First of all, Islam is a religion, possibly considered a culture, depending on the context of the conversation. And when it's the very people who happen to be born under it that are suffering, for us wanting to help them doesn't make us ignorant. It doesn't make us nosy. It makes us decent.
The gay community wants an affirmation of the way they do sex.
This story goes back a couple weeks, and it's out of Canada. That's where I'm at. Canada's Refugee Board is likely to look favorably on claims of persecution by gay asylum seekers from Russia, the immigration minister says. This is out of the Globe and Mail. It's one of our major papers. Chris Alexander said Monday that Russia has taken the wrong path in restricting the fundamental rights of its gay community, and that any refugee claims, quote, relevant to this particular issue will of course be looked at very seriously by our very generous system, end quote. Russia has passed a new law banning gay, quote, propaganda, a catch-all that prohibits gay pride events and providing information to minors on non-traditional relationships, and exposes those who express pro-gay views to persecution. Foreigners can be hit with fines of up to $3,000 and 15 days in a Russian jail. This is just the latest insanity out of Russia. These people that are running the system over there seem to have absolutely no understanding of which century they're living in. They're moving backwards, not forward. And many Russians put their faith behind the Russian Orthodox Church, which is really the pushing force behind this. If you're like me, if you've ever met someone from Russia that lives in the further west in Europe, over here in Canada, they like to paint the Russian Orthodox Church as being more peaceful and more lenient. But if you look through history, you don't find that. They like to make themselves sound better than the Catholic Church, but with the exception of a few kind of old mumbo jumbo about the Trinity, they are just as conservative, they are just as control freak, and right now they are connected at the hip with Putin. This is a really bad combination, and I agree with the people that say we should put pressure on them before the Olympics come around. It's a good time to start showing them that the rest of the world are living in a different century. Let's not fall back, let's not slip, let's not play the weak guy here. It's, these are human beings. It's easy to forget that. It's easy to say they're different. But that's not the right thing to do, and I'm not going to do that. Neither should you. Now I want to introduce you to an amazing performer. I happened across his music very happily by circumstance because he donated someone's YouTube video. His name is Tombstone the Dead Man. He's a skeptic. He's an atheist. And you will find his skills as a rapper to be second to none. I'm going to put his information in the links in the episode. Do yourself a favor, visit it, support him where you can, support artists like this whenever you can. So this is Ballad of the Non-Believer from Tombstone the Dead Man's album Death Lives. Check it out.
Did you really think that I wasn't going to address this album? Don't be ridiculous. Like most of you, I was indoctrinated with religion. At a time when I was much too young to make decisions. Dragged by the hand without permission, lacked the cognitive ability to see the contradictions and the superstitions. I know my mother really thought that she was doing right, cause after all, this wasn't a war she was taught to fight. Buried under layers of prayers, emotional attachments, and every other programming attached with a sense of common unity involvement. No actual incentive to question all of the sermons from the pulpit. This is how they introduced the idea. Firmly rooted in the fear, no question validity. Just to hear, it's not innocent, it sets a bad precedent. Internalized credulity for things that lack evidence. Some people keep this way of thinking for their whole lives. The need for critical thinking is never realized. I don't want to hear about the books that you have read. Explain to me the way you see the thoughts inside your head. Not filtered through the garbage you regurgitate instead. Your thoughts are just a program with which you are in bed. All I really want to do is show you there is freedom. Eliminate those primitive myths, you don't need them. The clergy only trolling for power, so don't feed them. And since they can't prove it, remove it and don't believe them. Ponder the logic of learning science from shamans. Excuse the laughter if you please, I'm trying to keep it all in. But this is how you look when you go and consult your preachers to gain an understanding of evolutionary features. In fact, I find it despicable how you characterize scientific principles, dismiss the indispensable. So don't believe these guys that say it's science they despise when they standing in the line for the iPhone 5. You benefiting from the method, then you go and step on it. The fame of everything that your life has been affected with. A lifespan enhancement comes directly from advancement by people in lab coats, not biblical and James. Take a whiff of these comedians, cause something smells funky. If we came from monkeys, then why there's still monkeys? See, that's the type of dumb shit that needs to be responded to. Your obvious accomplishment was dropping out of high school. I don't wanna hear about the books that you have read. Explain to me the way you see the thoughts inside your head. Not filtered through the garbage you regurgitate instead. Your thoughts are just a program with which you are in bed. All I really wanna do is show you there is freedom. Eliminate those primitive myths, you don't need them. The clergy only trolling for power, so don't feed them. And since they can't prove it, remove it and don't believe them. You're not mentally fit to be talking shit to me. You believe those primitive books are reflecting history in its purest form, like it really has no discrepancy. You want to go to war and you're choosing this as your weaponry. Now, how's that even sound at all? Is this even logic when you're claiming that a book of faith can prove your stupid argument? Way too much to bargain with, not much fat to stake it on. It's just like thinking if you dance, you can really make it storm. Oh yeah, but I forgot, your book is the truthful one, and all those other ancient myths are something that is really dumb. It couldn't possibly be that you all have been deceived. It couldn't possibly be that you got a false belief. That's why I question your sermon should be sequestered. Now leave from off my porch, you're starting to really pester. You're one of many thousands that's claiming a revelation, too wrapped up in all your ego to see your indoctrination. I don't want to hear about the books that you have read. Explain to me the way you see the thoughts inside your head. Not filtered through the garbage you regurgitate instead. Your thoughts are just a program with which you are in bed. All I really want to do is show you there is freedom. Eliminate those primitive myths, you don't need them. The clergy only trolling for power, so don't feed them. And since they can't prove it, remove it and don't believe them.
See? I told you. It's going to be bobbing through your head for a long time, and you're going to want to hear more. So instead of listening to this podcast episode over and over again in that one spot, do yourself a favor, buy the tracks. Tombstone to Dead Man. So I'm looking here at a UK publication, Free Thinker. They're talking about Canada. Wow, we're popular all around the world. This is actually a positive article about the separation of church and state. It's a critical issue that more people should pay more attention to at the local level. So, atheist forces change in policy over the distribution of Gideon Bibles in Canadian schools. This is from August 24th. And Renee, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Chouinard, we'll just call him Renee. At his school, the Gideons were handing out Gideon Bibles, and they would not allow him, when he recognized this was happening, to hand out correspondingly atheist material. When the school refused to allow him to do so, even though the Gideons were continuing to do so, in a public school, he went to the Human Rights Tribunal. For those of you who aren't Canadian, you might want to recognize that in Canada, the Human Rights Tribunal is a little bit different than a court. It's a party that basically has the court's authority to make a ruling, and if you want to challenge it later, you can take it to court. But it basically allows for a quicker, more seen as a more aggressive attempt to try and keep human rights in line within the civil population. At any rate, so he went to the tribunal, and though the tribunal does not always rule the way we would like, in this case it did. In this case, there is no question that the first version of the policy permitting students to receive literature in the public schools from one creed, but not the others, violated the norm of substantive equality. It promoted prejudice and stereotyping by suggesting that non-Christians, including atheists, are less worthy and valuable than others of having their creed included in the public school system. It perpetuated historical disadvantage of non-Christians, including atheists, in public institutions. That's what they had to say about it. Very good. Very good tribunal. Yeah. So I guess they're going to have to do some change there. They're going to have to figure out why it is you can't just do whatever you want for your own side and ignore everyone else and trying to have a dominating stance over other people's children.
I gave you the chance of aiding me willingly, but you have elected the way of pain.
This is going to be a segment that I call You're Embarrassing Yourself.
You are embarrassing yourself.
And this week, we have somebody who should not be given exceptions, and I'm not going to give him one. It was brought to mind because some friends were talking about it, and I heard him on a podcast saying some pretty dumbass things.
But we have David Silverman sitting at the end of the table. At the head of the table.
I'm America's loudest heathen. Or the foot.
I think you may be the most ardent of the atheists I know, including myself.
I'm America's loudest heathen. I'm America's loudest heathen. I'm America's loudest heathen.
David Silverman.
Yes.
You drive a Tesla?
You know what it is, don't you, boy?
You do drive a Tesla now.
I do.
Shall I tell you?
You drive a Tesla, you fucker.
It's the least I can do.
I'm getting a girlfriend, or I'm getting a car.
Look around you. There. On the rock.
So you're doing it for the press.
That beautiful girl.
Yes. Skepticism is a means to an end.
Yeah.
Okay? The end is atheism.
That is strength, boy. That is power. The strength and power of flesh.
Now, here's the quote that set me off.
No,
you run American Atheist. I don't know how long ago it was. Madeline O'Murray O'Hare.
Right.
Was
kidnapped and murdered, but not because of atheism.
Really?
Yeah, she was not kidnapped. She was kidnapped and murdered for money, not because of atheism.
Okay.
They're discussing with Silverman, the founder of American Atheists, decades ago. This woman was kidnapped with her son and her granddaughter, and they were cut up into little bits after they were forced to extract money from their own organization. If Silverman gave a damn about the history of his organization, rather than just getting his face on the news, he would understand very clearly that even the FBI indicated that the only reason that the initial investigation, which had clear leads, clear indications that something was wrong, and nothing was done about it, was because the local police put no priority and no interest into it because they were known troublemakers or atheists. Silverman's being asked a serious question by the interviewers. This program, by the way, is Skeptically Yours, an excellent program. But they're asking him in good faith, do you think that there's an excuse for atheists not to come out of the, quote, closet? Is there any danger? Is there any possibility that people will get hurt? And he uses this as an example of how, well, people just think there's a danger. Well, the danger was that they were still alive for a long time with many clues. And the reason the local police did nothing and didn't care was because they were atheists. So that's something he should be talking about. That's something he should be saying. Instead, what do we get?
Was kidnapped and murdered, but not because of atheism.
Really?
Yeah, she was not kidnapped. She was kidnapped and murdered for money, not because of atheism.
Okay.
Silverman is a narcissist, what I like to call a shiner. It's not really the cause that matters to him. He is his own cause. He wants the cameras on him. He wants people talking about him. He's worrying about what he's building in his main industry, the industry of David Silverman. He is the product. And a lot of people don't really think of things that way because he seems to be doing a lot of good work, and sometimes he is. But when you see this type of situation arise, it's because he does not have ethical principles in place. He's more concerned about ramming things into people's faces and down their throat. What he should be doing here is doing his homework, and even though it goes against what he wants, everybody going out saying they're an atheist, being militant, giving support to his organization, Instead, he should be cautioning people, yeah, you know what, sometimes it is dangerous. Maybe you won't get killed and chopped into little bits. Maybe it's not just going to be that the authorities aren't going to not help you and not help your family. You might get kicked out of the house if you're young. You might lose your job. You might not get a job in the first place. These are consequences, and David Silverman doesn't care. He's driving around in a Tesla. He's making jokes. He's wearing nice suits. What does he care? He does not care. I'm going to put a little bit more information together, and this next bit that I'm going to let run is specifically about a bully, a man with a great deal of power behind him because of his organization. David Silverman, coming at a younger man, an up-and-coming activist who doesn't agree with him on an ideology, and the disingenuous nature of David Silverman lecturing him, bombarding him. But you decide for yourself. At the very end of this, remember that P.Z. Myers himself is now up for litigation because he has accused Michael Shermer of something that he has no backing for based on rumor about rape. Shermer is going to be taking him to court, and that falls directly into the area he promises young Justin Vakula. In this interview that he gave previously, he promised he would go after PZ the same way he's going after Justin. But as you can see, he has not. He will not. He will not take PZ out of his keynote position at American Atheist Convention because he has something to gain and he has too much to lose by fighting with him. And that's the way these people work. But you decide for yourself.
It's going to be an open discussion between you and I, and again, thank you for coming on the show.
Well, it's your show, Justin. I think if we were to continue the Twitter conversation that we were having, you and I were having a disagreement over what the shit is. You can be a good activist, Justin, but there's so much shit around you, and what you do is you deny it.
Yes.
But you also have the potential to take a great big nosedive and to get mired in rape threat and rape joke retweets, and to get mired in rape threat and rape joke retweets. Rape threat.
Yes.
So we're obviously disagreeing about what the extent of, and you use the term is of shit, and you had specifically mentioned just now rape threats and rape jokes.
Yes.
I was retweeting. I constantly hear this thing about how there are rape threats.
Yes.
I don't see these things. I hear claims about how there's this rampant misogyny in the movement, that the movement is unsafe for women at conference. So can you please give some examples of the hatred and threats of violence that you're talking about here?
I don't need to give examples. I don't need to give examples. I don't need to give examples. I don't need to give examples.
Wash away all that has gone before.
I'm not going to come here and say, okay, well, on this specific date, on this specific time, you said, quote, this. That's not what I'm going for. When a preponderance, a substantial portion of the female activists in this movement feel oppressed, feel harassed, it's our job to fix it. Laugh under my breath when somebody threatens them, or somebody allegedly comes off, or somebody comes off with a mild comment that is clearly an under-the-breath threat. I'm not going to laugh at that. I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to say, hey, you know what? That's not appropriate. This person, I may not like this person, but that's an ally. We don't tweet at our allies repeatedly to try and fuck with them. Female activists in this movement feel oppressed, feel harassed. It's our job to fix it. Feel oppressed, feel harassed, feel oppressed, feel harassed. I don't need to give examples. I don't need to give examples.
All right, so I'd like to address some of these things here. You said that we don't need to give examples of the threats or the rape jokes, but what I often see is...
No, I said I don't need to give examples. Justin, I didn't say we don't need examples. I said I don't need to give examples. My point is what you're doing. Okay?
So
this is about you. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, P.Z. Myers said this, and Rebecca said that, and Greta said this. I'm trying to make you a great activist. I'm trying to make everybody a great activist. And you can't be a great activist until you totally dismiss the shit.
When I am gone,
you have to recognize, Justin, that you are part of the shit. That you are the one who posted Amy's address online. You are the one who's part of the slime pit. You are the one who just recently tweeted out a nice picture of all the women in secularism with "I Heart Justin" photoshopped over them.
But what I see is everything conflated. That mere criticism and mere disagreement is conflated as hatred, misogyny, rape threats, death threats, and I don't think this is the case. There is certainly some shit out there, as you said earlier. There's nastiness online.
Let's talk about the shit and let's talk about the nastiness.
Oh, I've seen many of the comments from P.Z. Myers' blog. Have you denounced those?
I have never seen P.Z. Myers tell anybody they're too ugly to be raped.
Okay, great. So if there's a standard for me to denounce things, then I think you have to do the same thing. You need to separate yourself from Free Thought Blogs and P.Z. Myers. P.Z. Myers and many of his commenters talk things like talk them into the ground. There's so many things there, but I'm not holding you responsible for that, Dave, because you're not P.Z. Myers. You're not the commenters there. I can't be the police and the sheriff of the internet denouncing every single little thing that happens. I shouldn't be seen as being in support who try to get me banned from attending the conference in Washington, D.C., and who are relentlessly saying all these nasty, horrible things about me, that I can't be trusted about women, that women can't be safe in my presence, that someone can't bring their daughter to a conference. This is detestable, Dave. But I'm not holding you to the standard and saying that you need to denounce that. But you're holding me to a standard saying that I need to denounce things that people who are loosely associated with me happen to say online.
Okay, we're not talking about Free Thought Blogs, and we're not talking about me. We're talking about you being associated with these people. We're talking about you. I'm not policing anyone, okay? I'm not holding anyone to any standards. I'm not saying you should do anything that I don't do every fucking day. Okay? What I'm saying is that when you see shit, you've got to denounce it, especially when it's shit from your associates. P.Z. Myers, what I'm saying is that when you see shit, you've got to denounce it, especially when it's shit from your associate. P.Z. Myers, what I'm saying is that when you see shit, you've got to denounce it, especially when it's shit from your associate. P.Z. Myers, if anybody from any of my list of friends anywhere posts anything that would be termed harassment, P.Z. Myers, termed harassment, P.Z. Myers, man, that's not my friend anymore. We need to recognize that every activist, except, of course, those activists who push other activists away, P.Z. Myers, is an important part of this movement.
Are you going to denounce P.Z. Myers and Rebecca Watson because they are leading to people leaving the movement and feeling alienated? Are you going to denounce them?
I'm not asking you to denounce people. I'm asking you to denounce actions. And if they did an action which I judge to be, I'm sorry? You show me an action that's a rape threat. You show me an action that's a legitimate sexual harassment, and yes, I'll denounce it. P.Z. Myers, and your whole concept that the picture that you tweeted out was a lighthearted joke, that's bullshit too, because you knew it would piss them off, you knew it would get them to write shit about it, and you knew that it had nothing to do with any actions or any repercussions that they did. P.Z. Myers, you did it for attention. P.Z. Myers did it to be you did it to be an asshole.
Yeah. Well, I find this interesting because I don't see the slime pit committing acts of violence, burning crosses, racial intimidation.
Dude,
I don't see any.
You see the analogy I'm making, and my analogy is crystal clear, and you see it. And this is what I'm talking about. This defensive, no, this doesn't exist bullshit is getting in your way as an activist. And if there's a group of anybody in this movement that says, I'm doing something bad, you should take it seriously. If they say I'm acting in an unethical way, you should take it seriously, and you should look and you should consider it, and so should I. And when somebody says, Dave Silverman is harassing me, P.Z. Myers, and when we look into it, and we find that this person, P.Z. Myers, is inventing something, I'm going to just avoid that person, P.Z. Myers, and that's what I'm asking you to do. But you've got to dump the shit.
I think you have a problem, Dave, and need to dump the shit, too, in your association with Free Thought Blogs, with your association with Rebecca Watson. You need to dump them and immediately distance yourself from them. Stop inviting them to your conferences. Stop inviting them to participate as speakers.
No. Not at all. First of all, I barely know Rebecca Watson. I barely know her. I'm friends with Greta and with PZ and with Amy. And I'm also friends with a lot of other people in this movement. But it's not my job to dismiss them because they're saying we should be more ethical and we should care more about women. That's
well,
what they're
that's
saying.
not
Now,
what we're
now if they come out and they say Justin Vakula is an asshole because he did this, I don't care about that. That's honest criticism. Now if they come out and they say, Justin Vakula is an asshole because he did this, I don't care about that. That's honest criticism. Feel oppressed. Feel harassed. I don't need to give examples.
You know what it is, don't you, boy?
When many of their actions lead to discord, when people are attacked week by week on blogs, thrown under the bus, called a misogynist, a rapist, a rape apologist, I don't really consider these people allies. I would like for that rhetoric to similarly stop and to move on and work together on these issues. I would like for that to happen.
And I would like for that to happen too. We're not here to stop people from talking or saying nasty words or criticizing each other honestly. I'm talking about the shit. The shit that's much more poignant when a man does it to a woman than from when a woman does it to a man. The shit that's much more poignant when a man does it to a woman than from when a woman does it to a man, and we all know it. I don't need to give examples. I'm not going to try and drum them out of the movement because that's bad for the movement and it's bad for the country.
Well, then you need to really go after Ed Brayton and P.Z. Myers for saying that Thunderfoot needs to be drummed out of the movement. I need to be disqualified from activism. I need to be disqualified from the community. That I should be made to resign from organizations. These people really aren't my allies, Dave, when they're engaging in this kind of behavior. I would like to work together with people who consider themselves atheists in the movement, but that's made very difficult when people engage in this behavior like that. When people call women chill girls, sister punishers, gender traitors, it's very difficult to do, Dave.
Your world be without me.
It's difficult to do because you're mired in the shit already. The reason that you're having this problem is all because of the shit.
I guess it's the intervention for Justin here.
This is what I'm saying. The good news, there is good news here, man. I want you to hear the good news too.
You have the good news.
The good news is I think you have skills. I think you have talent. I do.
Are you going to hand me a Bible?
Great activist. What?
Are you going to hand me a Bible with your good news?
Burn you the way to
P.Z. Myers.
Paradise! But you have elected the way of pain!
So there you have my mix of an interview that happened and the other portion that pissed me off from a later interview that happened more recently. I'll link both the original podcast interviews in the show notes. Check them out. Skeptically Yours is an excellent program, and so is Justin Vakula on his program Brave Hero with his co-host Carla Porter. Check them out, support them, and learn how to be not just an atheist, but skeptical. They're good people. As for David Silverman, I don't think there's any excuse for this kind of conduct and inappropriate dishonesty, maneuvering from a man who's in charge of such a large and influential atheist institution. On that note, this is my open call that I believe, and I am calling for the removal or the stepping down of this jerk-off from American atheists. I don't care if you like that position or not. I think it's firmly grounded in reality and propriety. The other thing I'm going to say is this is an open invitation to the illustrious president if he ever wants to come on a show where someone doesn't feel the need to be any more polite to them than he is being to them. His conduct with Justin was completely uncalled for, and if he expects to get respect, he'd better start showing it to people. And you step on the little guys, they're the ones you're going to meet on the way down. I guess on that note, remember that normally this program is going to be two people, a lot more chuckles probably, dealing with different issues when Smashlock gets in, when he's got some free time. If you disagree with anything I've said, if you don't like anything that I've said, or you do, feel free to contact me either way. On this show, clearly it doesn't matter what people think about what I say, I'm going to say it. Though you might have an impact through conversation. I have stressed this before, it's the exchange of information that's meaningful to me. I don't say what I say just to shit with people, try to egg them on. I like the exchange, but I'm still going to tell you what I think. And hopefully, somewhere along the line, we'll be able to have a good influence on each other. Alrighty, well you have fun. Hope you enjoyed.
all capable of doing good things. We're capable of doing evil things.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.
Big, interesting, important word begins with E, evidence. All the evidence is the cosmos doesn't know we're here.
This is Apostasy Now.
There were no Jesus. It's a matter of indifference. And there might have been, but it just seems to me the burden of proof is on the person that would say that there was. It's just special pleading again. You want special treatment for your favorite savior.
So what if I'm offended? So what if my feelings are hurt? Does that give me the right to prevent others from expressing their opinions?
Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu takes on multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Big, interesting, important word begins with E, evidence. All the evidence is the cosmos doesn't know we're here.
I think there's an alternative explanation, and that is that we're dealing with an epidemic of hysteria here.
Get ready to root for the bad guys.